Since its release in 2010, Mount & Blade has always been a standing point and at the same time as being a foundation for medieval games of this day, it's also, I would say, the pinnacle for many people, and at least me as well, because it really is probably the best medieval game ever. I mean, Bannerlord is oh, it's not out yet. Thought this was some sort of alternate future. But in today's video, I'm doing something a little bit different. This is, well, I'm saying different. I'm still talking about Mount & Blade, but it's different because I'm actually putting some research in, and and I'm talking about how mods saved Mount & Blade. Now that is a bold title. What are you talking about, bud? And this is my hypothesis, and we're going to be going through and sifting through whether I'm right or wrong. Mount & Blade Warband is an incredible game. The native game base really did something quite different, but I don't think Mount & Blade would be as popular today without mods. And here, in this video, is my proof. Bringing up Steam database, I've done some research, looking through some events throughout Mount & Blade's history and see how they correlate with Steam database, with sales, and it's mostly its player base. Now, of course, there's a bit of guesswork in here as well, but I would say a lot of you will probably agree with me with the stuff that I've come up with. Of course, released in 2010, upon its release, there was probably around 3,000 or 4,000 daily players. That's pretty low, but it sort of makes sense. Mount & Blade wasn't a very known game back in the day. It is an indie company from Turkey. I mean, no one knew who Tailwoods were back in 2010. Anyone that had played the Mount & Blade games before, it was fairly popular, but nothing to the scale it is now. Now, there have been two massive spikes straight away. Of course, for the first couple of years, it flatlined, like I said, 3,000 or 4,000 players, but then there were two massive spikes around April and May of 2012. And you can see here on the graph, they're rather significant. Yes, there has been a couple before, but these are where it really starts to grow. This is where the graph starts to shoot upwards rather than going a bit up and down. And it starts with a massive spike in April of 2012. What happened in April of 2012, you might say? Well, this was when Mount & Musket started to heighten up, and yes, this is where mods start to play in. Now, it is not confirmed that this is the reason, but it correlates rather nicely to two very big Mount & Musket videos on YouTube. Malekith was a starting point for a lot of Mount & Blade players, me, myself included, and I think he contributes a lot more to the sales of this game than he probably gives himself credit for. I mean, his biggest Mount & Musket video came up at around this time, and followed by his biggest Napoleonic Wars video, and I don't think it's a coincidence that there were big spikes in the player base at this point. But of course, along with this, Mount & Blade Napoleonic Wars was released, and we're going to go into that a little bit later because I think that was probably one of the biggest points to why this game has grown and what really saved it in terms of numbers. But let's look at these Mount & Blade videos by Malekith. With almost 1 million views each, these are quite impressive, and they correlate almost perfectly with these two spikes. And as I said, 2012 is when it really started to grow. It's when it went from plateauing to something of an upward spiral. Yes, there's ups and downs with spikes here and there with different things, but it is obvious that it is going upwards from here. But what contributed to this? Well, of course, like I said, Mount & Musket, then Mount & Blade Napoleonic Wars was released. Mount & Blade Napoleonic Wars, if anyone doesn't know, was a DLC made off Mount & Musket. Of course, you still need Warband to play it, but it was a more refined, more pristine DLC, taking the factions that you had for Mount & Musket and putting them in their own DLC. Here they have set troops, set units that you could pick through, balancing it greatly. Also having things like fifes, drummers, being able to have commander battles, which is really new and I think brought a lot of people into Mount & Blade, having these lines. And then came the events. Taken over from Mount & Musket, it was so superior. Having destructible terrain, having officer units, having better graphics really helped everyone move across to this new DLC, and this is when the events started happening. Having regiments lining up, moving, working with each other, go to training, have promotions, have whole ranking systems throughout Mount & Blade. This is what caught me into the game. Seeing this on Malekith's videos made me realize that this was different. This is something that I hadn't seen before, and I didn't even have a PC at this point. I was an Xbox 360 gamer. Yes, what a cool kid I was, playing Halo split screen with my brother. What a cool guy I am. And then I saw these videos, and boy, did I steal my mum's laptop. And joining my first regiment, the 41st, as a sweet little 13-year-old boy back in the day. What What a cutie. But it all came because of these videos. It all came because of this mod and this DLC that had grown such a following, not only in the game itself, but breaching out into the mainstream, some might say, into YouTube. There were also some smaller spikes coming up. There was a spike upon the release of Persistent World, the open world mod which took the Game of Thrones houses, people putting them into each other, forming a sort of RPG open world game. People playing as serfs, people playing as blacksmiths, people playing as engineers and soldiers and lords, going to war with each other, forming clans, and this is when the community started to build, having Napoleonic Wars events, having Persistent World events, grew a community with mods coming in, building it up. Having Full Invasion 2 coming in through 2012 and 2013 and pushing into 2014, the game grew exponentially. From the release of Full Invasion 2, as I said, Persistent World, mods like Bear Force 2 and of course Mount and Gladius, the Roman mod, which was one of the most popular mods back in the day, once again with events, bringing people in. This was another one of the mods that really brought me back into Warband from Napoleonic Wars, that got me playing it, that got me into shield battles, and my god, it was incredible. There were massive spikes in July and August of 2015, which we all know was when Bannerlord really started to ramp up. I just looked and it was announced in September, I think it was the 27th of September 2012. It's really getting on, guys. Have you checked your watches recently? But August 2015 was when it ramped up. Yes, this isn't modding, but I thought I should add this anyway because this was a big point of the player base having big spikes. I mean, think about it. The first proper gameplay released of Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. It was shown at E3 and it was shown at Gamescom. This is in July and August of 2015, and as we can see, these are massive spikes here, which makes a lot of sense. There's something I'm a bit unsure about. As you can see on the graph, on Monday, June 30th, there were 32,799 people playing Mount & Blade Warband, not the Napoleonic Wars DLC. Now I know that I have stated that the Napoleonic Wars DLC grew to massive extents and brought so many people in. This graph is not the Napoleonic Wars DLC, but you can tell that it did bring people into Warband as well. But what happened on July and June in 2014? Now this is something that I actually genuinely don't know. I've looked everywhere, I've looked all over YouTube for different things it could be, yet I come up blank. If you guys know, I would love to see what your predictions are with this. I need some conspiracy theories, because it's not just slightly bigger than the other days, it's exponentially bigger. Something obviously happened in June and July of 2015. It wasn't Napoleonic Wars, that was already out. It wasn't any particular mods, big mods I remember. I don't think there was any Bannerlord announcement on that date. I mean, June and July was around E3, but unless I'm mistaken, I don't think they went to E3 in 2014. I think 2015 was their first proper year at E3. So that is something that I would love to hear from you guys. Now, I have talked about Napoleonic Wars a bit. Now, of course, DLCs are a big point. This will get a lot of people into the game itself, but then again, Napoleonic Wars was very separate to Mount & Blade Warband. It was a completely different game and a completely different playstyle. But what was similar? What did come out at this time that really helped boost it, that was a big pushed DLC that really helped Warband itself? And this was Viking Conquest. And as you can see once again on the graph, those big spikes. I don't know why there's a complete drop to 0 players. Maybe everyone took the day off, or maybe the servers go down. I would like to think that everyone took the day off, because that was when people finally had enough of Bannerlord not being released, so everyone went on strike. But yes, of course, Viking Conquest, a massive success, and its predecessor being a Mount & Blade mod, the Brighton World mod. These two, Viking Conquest and Napoleonic Wars, together helped massively to increase it, and they adapted from mods. Now, of course, the game itself has to be great for this to happen. A mod will not completely save a game. I know the title says how mods save Mount & Blade, but it's just a dramatic title. While the base game native is incredible, and while I think now, as sort of a seasoned Mount & Blade player that's played all the mods that I want to, when I go back to Mount & Blade, I play native. I play the campaign because it's what I enjoy doing, and the nostalgia is incredible. I like to drop back in Napoleonic Wars sometime, but I don't really have the time to commit to events. But mods really bought the base game, and they took it up to the next level. Yes, it was growing on its own, but you can really see that the graph shows how fast it grew. When certain mods were released, moving into certain DLCs, and of course certain promotion on the internet because of mods such as YouTube videos and articles from gaming websites. Mount and Blade has been so successful, and it is sort of plateaued on a fairly steady 10 to 13,000 players, which for a game that came out in 2010, 9 and a bit years ago, wow. It's not just been mods, don't get me wrong. I think they have been a massive point, but I think Mount and Blade itself did something so incredible to keep its own. Mods or no mods, it was an incredible game, and it still is and hopes to be to the distant future. Well, until Bannerlord is released, but at this rate, we're going to be playing Mount and Blade Warband till the day we die. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I would love to hear some of your thoughts on this, whether you agree with me, whether it is mods that sort of saved Mount and Blade that helped it grow this much, or whether there are other things. Now remember, do your research. June, July 2014. Please tell me what's happened. We need to know. This is a conspiracy. This is more stressful than the Madeleine McCann conspiracy, than the Malaysian Airlines conspiracy. Something has gone on here, and we need to solve this mystery together. So make sure you leave it down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, I will see you in the next one.